Hello everyone! The patch notes for 4.2 have finally come out. The patch is gonna be deployed today, so I'm pretty much spending my entire night making a video about this. I will cover as much as I can. I might have to make a part 2, because I will eventually need some sleep. I will go into more detail in a moment, but let's summarize it really quick. Doc gets a buff, Twitch gets a buff, Blackbeard gets a nerf, P90 gets a buff, the MP5K gets a buff, the 9mm gets a buff, Buck CAMRS or that thing gets a buff, the 417 gets a buff, the G36 gets a buff, Fuse's LMG gets a buff, Blackbeard's assault rifle gets a nerf, Valkyrie gets a nerf while Montagna and IQ get a buff. 4 attackers are getting claymores, while 4 defenders are getting impact grenades. There's 2 new attachments, a heavy barrel and a muzzle brake. Team killing gets punished harder, and hit rec has been improved. Alright, that was an awful lot of stuff. This is a gigantic patch. Let's talk about the details. As always, take everything I say with a grain of salt. I am not a pro player, this is just my personal opinion on it. The update itself is called Mid-Season Reinforcements, and as the name implies, there's a lot of buffs. I'm gonna leave the text here, I'm not gonna read it out loud, you can just read it for yourself, but I'm gonna give my comment to it. I do agree that Doc's stim pistol was way too situational. I barely ever played him, but I can count the number of revives that I've got on myself on one hand. Doc never felt like a really good operator to me. Rook was better in almost every aspect, and Doc felt more like a supplement to Rook. With the buff he's going to be able to heal himself and his teammates. I really like the idea behind it. It's not gonna be insanely useful, because you die to one-shot headshot anyways, but it's definitely a really good step in the right direction. I really like it, and I have to see in-game how it works out, but it sounds like a really good idea. Also, he can now overcharge himself and his teammates. Honestly, I don't think that's gonna do much at all. It doesn't last for very long, and it's only 20 HP more. It might turn the fight around in some occasions, but most of the time you're not gonna benefit too much from it. But then again, Doc really needs every buff he can get. Next up we have Twitch. She's getting a second shock drone. One for the preparation phase and one for actual sieging. The drones also move faster, create less sound, and don't have the red light anymore. Also, very important, the range gets increased. With 7 meters range, she can now take care of cameras. Being able to use that in the preparation phase means she can shoot all the outside cameras before the attackers can even spawn, which means that the defenders are gonna have no clue where they're coming from. I really like this change. Twitch always felt very bog standard, and her drone wasn't very useful. Having 2 of them changes that drastically, and the ability to shoot out cameras helps a lot too. I can see myself running into every single room in the preparation phase and shooting out every single camera, just because I can, leaving the defenders no clue what's about to happen. Also, you're gonna be able to destroy more gadgets inside the objective when you have a second drone available. Maybe we will even see some more kills with the drones, who knows. But yeah, as I already said, good buff. And here we go, the big Blackbeard nerf. Blackbeard now has 2 shields instead of 1, but each shield only has 150 HP, as opposed to the original 800. Now that is a crazy nerf. First off, I will admit that Blackbeard was a little bit too strong in the current patch, but I didn't have any problems playing around it. I'm getting the same vibe here that I had with the shotgun nerf. That is overdoing it just a bit. But at least this time you can't yell at me for being a Blackbeard main. At the moment I played him like once every 50 rounds or so. I gotta say though, every time I played him I was very confident and always did pretty well. And still I didn't have too much trouble against him. Don't forget that he also gets his assault rifle nerfed. It's not a gigantic nerf, but they're increasing his recoil. But I like the general idea of the changes. It will make Blackbeard players move around a lot more, play more aggressively, and not just hang from the wall 24/7. I honestly don't know why it took Ubisoft so long to figure that out. I can definitely see why it happened. He was picked every single round, and that's not a thing that should happen. Looking at you, Thermite. Okay, on to the new gadgets. There's a claymore coming, and interestingly enough, the attackers get them. This is a really great tool against roamers. I can see this being very useful. I can't tell you how exactly they work yet, but it might be that you can just cut off entire flanks. This is a tool they gave to everyone that was complaining about people jumping outside. Now you have something against that. Even though I'm calling it now, they're still gonna complain. Because a lot of people will not know how to use this properly. It's gonna always be like that. There's always gonna be those people. The more I think about it, the claymores actually justify the Blackbeard nerf. I used to just jump outside and get him on the wall, but if there's a claymore, I suddenly can't do that anymore. But yeah, I guess we'll have to see how it works out. I'm a bit disappointed Twitch gets one. I really like the stun grenade on Twitch. But claymores are gonna be beastly on Thermite and Thatcher. Overall, this means roamers are gonna have to be a lot more careful now. We will see what kind of impact that has on the meta. The defenders, on the other hand, will get impact grenades. This one might be the most interesting change. It's probably what I'm most excited about. I find it hilarious that everyone is complaining about C4 being overused, and Ubisoft is like, yeah, we're gonna remove C4 from 2 operators, but give 4 operators 8 grenades in total. I'm not quite sure where this is going. But then again, we almost know nothing about these. Maybe shields are somewhat immune to them. Maybe they don't even kill in one hit. Maybe you need to directly hit to kill someone, otherwise it's just gonna do minor damage. We don't exactly know yet, we kind of have to figure that out, but what I really like about this is that defenders now actually have a tool to open walls without having to use shotguns or C4. Due to the lack of information I have here, that's pretty much everything I have to say about it. On to the next topic. Valkyrie gets one of her cameras removed. I gotta agree, 4 cameras was maybe a little bit too much. Her cameras are extremely useful, and in pro play she was picked pretty much 100% of the time. I really like the change, it's not gonna take too much off of her. Also, Montagne and IQ can deploy their gadgets more quickly now. Not really game changing, but a good buff on 2 of the weakest operators nonetheless. There's also 2 new attachments. We are getting a heavy barrel that increases long range damage at cost of increased recoil, and a muzzle brake that diminishes the first shot recoil. Both are pretty straightforward, not much to talk about here, but having more options is always a good thing. Also, a bunch of weapons got buffed. I mentioned them earlier in the video, you can just go back and see there. Not gonna talk too much about it, but I feel like all of the buffs are very justified. Most of the weapons were not very good, and I hope it creates a little bit more diversity. I'm especially excited for the G36C, as the RC4 is pretty much played 100% of the time on Ash. Okay, the last thing mentioned are hit registration and team killing. I like the harder punishments for team killing. I'm not having too much trouble with team killers, and I understand that there is a fine line between accidental team killing and team killing on purpose. I have team killed on accident a bunch of times now, and I've never been kicked, and I don't think I will get kicked with a new system when I accidentally team kill someone, so I think it's a good change. And I personally never had any issues with the hit reg. I'm happy that it gets improved, but people are blaming hit reg way more than it deserves. Like, I remember seeing a post on Reddit a few days ago complaining about it, where someone shoots an Ash in the shoulders twice and blames hit reg for not getting the headshot. One shot clearly went into the left shoulder and one shot into the right. But no, let's not blame my bad aim and instead blame hit reg, because that's easier, right? But I guess I've talked about this issue for long enough. The last thing I want to mention for this patch is that I cannot see anything anywhere about the reload bug. I really hope they fixed it in the background and just forgot to write it down. Alright, that's pretty much all of the changes. What do you think about the patch? Post in the comments. Until next time, see ya!